During the peak of the Cold War, two MiG-25s engage in a high-speed pursuit to eliminate a potential danger along the Soviet border. They are capable of reaching an incredible Mach 3.2 when their engines are pushed to their limits, making them the fastest interceptors that have ever been built. However, this is not sufficient, because the target of their pursuit is capable of outrunning and outclimbing any adversary it encounters. A plane that has been specifically designed to be invulnerable. The United States of America and the Soviet Union were locked in a tense struggle for global influence and control throughout the duration of the Cold War. Both sides invested a significant amount of resources into the development of military technologies. However, gaining the upper hand requires you to anticipate the actions of your opponent. However, it appears that the Americans were incorrect in their assessment. Since the very beginning, the Soviets had been keeping tabs on the U-2, and it was only a matter of time before they were able to bring one of these planes down. It wasn't enough to merely soar to great heights. Even before the U-2 began its role in the military surveillance operations, preparations were already underway to succeed it. Because in order to fly freely through Soviet airspace, one would require an extraordinary combination of speed, altitude, and stealthiness. And as a result of this, the Americans began to investigate some pretty outlandish concepts for spy planes, such as an aircraft powered by roundjets that would be deployed from the bottom of a supersonic B-58. However, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, selected Lockheed to design the next generation of spy planes in 1959. During this time, the U-2 plane remained in the air and flew over the Soviet Union. However, this only lasted for a short period of time because in the spring of 1960, a Soviet surface-to-air missile was successful in shooting one of them down. The captured pilot and the wreckage were used as evidence of Western aggression and were shown publicly throughout the Soviet Union. As a result of the escalating tensions, the United States was in desperate need of a replacement for the U-2, and the aircraft that Lockheed designed would be unlike any other aircraft that had ever been constructed. An aircraft that, almost 60 years after it made its maiden voyage, still holds the record for the fastest air-breathing jet to ever fly. The highly secretive reconnaissance aircraft that Lockheed was developing would be designated as the A-12. The A-12 was initially utilized by the CIA for the purpose of reconnaissance. However, it was later modified to become a prototype for an interceptor equipped with air-to-air missiles, as well as a variant that was able to launch an unmanned reconnaissance drone. However, it was the SR-71 Blackbird, a variant developed for the Air Force that would go on to serve for decades, in contrast to earlier versions of the aircraft, which were quickly retired. The Blackbird was able to maintain a speed of Mach 3.2 right up to the boundary of space for an indefinite amount of time. In order to accomplish this goal, the engineers at Lockheed were required to develop virtually everything from scratch. The SR-71 and its predecessors were powered by engines that are commonly referred to as turbojet. In the 1960s, this necessitated the development of completely novel methods of fabrication. Its peculiar shape did more than just frighten UFO enthusiasts. It also assisted in reducing its radar signature, just like the SR-71's special black paint did, which is what gave the aircraft its nickname, the Blackbird. When they were first put into service, the A-12 and the SR-71 were flown over North Korea and Vietnam, where they were shot at by more than 800 surface-to-air missiles without being hit. However, the spy plane did not enter Soviet airspace at any point during its mission. Instead, the SR-71 flew along the borders of its territory, using its sophisticated side-looking radar and cameras to peer hundreds of miles into Soviet territory. And that was a source of frustration for the Soviets. In 1976, Viktor Belenko went rogue and defected to the West by flying his MiG-25 out of the Soviet Union and into the West. He went on to describe the exasperating experience of trying to catch Blackbirds. The MiGs had a top speed of Mach 3, but they could only maintain that speed for a few minutes at a time. Certainly not for as long as the Blackbird. They also were unable to ascend to the incredible altitude that the SR-71 had reached. Even their enormous R-40 missiles did not have the necessary guidance to hit the SR-71 in a head-on fashion. Over the course of many years, the Blackbirds were essentially immune to harm. They were superior to any opponent in the air and on the ground. However, by the time the 1980s rolled around, the skies were filled with MiG-31s that were armed with advanced radar and R-33 missiles with a long range. They posed a legitimate threat, as did a new generation of surface-to-air missiles that were being developed by the Soviet Union. However, the Blackbird wasn't facing its greatest danger from a hostile missile or aircraft. It was the thing itself. Although there was never a Blackbird that was lost in the course of its mission, more than a third of the 50 that were built were destroyed in accidents. In addition to this, the operational costs were extremely high. Each one takes approximately $300 million out of the annual budget for the United States defense every year. A portion of the SR-71's utility was diminished as a result of technological advancements such as spy satellites and aerial drones, as well as the plane's inability to deliver surveillance data in real time. Add to that the fact that politics and infighting over defense budgets were taking place, and by the late 1980s, it was clear that the SR-71's time had come to an end. In 1998, they were officially put out of service, and 2 of them were given to NASA for testing. The technology that enabled the A-12 and the SR-71 to fly has been around for well over 50 years at this point. Nevertheless, these incredible planes are still able to communicate with us about the present and the future, not the past, leaving us with a sense of wonder that is truly remarkable throughout the history of aviation. Thank you for watching Warplanes channel. Don't hesitate to hit the like button if you enjoyed our video, and feel free to share it with someone who might like it. Also, for more incredible warplanes and fighter jet content, subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to stay updated.